recently, the Saudi women's rights activist, the revolutionary Loujain al-Hathloul, so she's one of the people who fought for women's right to drive, and a lot of the sort of the rights that women are finally getting in Saudi Arabia. She was recently sentenced, right, just weeks ago, to 5 years and 8 months in prison. And the crimes, quote unquote crimes, that she's accused of or charged with or convicted of, actually, is talking to Western diplomats about her fight for women's rights and for applying for a job at the UN. Okay. She's already been in prison for more than 2.5 years already, and she's already gone through torture. She's gone through sexual abuse and all kinds of terrible things. And on top of that, the sentence came in. But the judge did give her credit for the time already served and suspended part of her sentence. And this is very unusual because this means that she could be released as early as March, right? As early as just like 2 months from now. She will still have 3 years probation. She'll have a 5-year travel ban. They're going to try to disincentivize her from activism and everything that she's doing. So recently, the Washington Post editorial board, right, wrote an editorial. And they were saying that this leniency is, quote, almost certainly a result of US pressure on the Saudis, particularly by the incoming, well, now it's already there, the Joe Biden administration. Because apparently President Trump, in the past, essentially gave the Saudis a blank check to do as they wished. And as you know, he defended MBS and the killing of the Khashoggi, and he vetoed the bipartisan measure to stop the support of to stop the U.S. supporting the Saudis' war in Yemen and selling them arms and so on. So this is kind of what we're going to talk about today. Right? Is this new administration, is this going to make a difference? Does the U.S. pressure on the Saudis, is it possible it'll start working because of the lower dependency on Saudi oil? Is it possible that the Saudis are more susceptible to it? So this was kind of an interesting thing. Armin, have you read the editorial?
Not that one. I read some other commentary on it, but I read a whole bunch of other things with regards to Biden's freeze on the arms sales against Saudi Arabia, because to me, that is more important than this, this one person being free in 2 months from jail. And I do think, but I do want to, before I switch to that, I do want to focus on this case a little bit, but I do want to even criticize our community a little bit for not knowing what to focus on and being, but yeah, I mean, this is a small sign of progress, in my opinion. And I do think that the Saudis know that the pressure is going to be on them, and obviously they're reacting accordingly. But I hope that Biden doesn't get distracted with symbolism. And just because the Saudis do a couple of things here and there, like release a few prisoners or let women do this and let women do that, and then some bloggers write their stuff, I hope that doesn't become an excuse for Biden to be like, oh, look, progress, we could go back and sell weapons to them again. There is the main pressure the main thing I want to see. Again, there is some human rights issues that is very, very surface-based, but gets a lot of attention. And when it comes to the number of people that are being impacted, it's significantly less than what actually matters, in my opinion. But they get the most attention because they're sexy. Again, I'm not saying that feminists being in jail it's not an important issue. It is an important issue. But these are easy wins for Saudi Arabia to give the Biden administration in hopes that Biden could go out and show this to people and be like, okay, we could go back to sell weapons, right? And yet the number of people that are being impacted by the weapons trades between, United States and Saudi, the Yemenis who are being constantly bombarded. Like, let me actually show you what I have on the screen right now. We have UN Humanitarian Office puts Yemen war dead at 233,000, mostly from indirect causes, right? So this is what United States, this is by the UN News. And this is what this 233,000 people, for me, is something that gets a lot, what I noticed, it gets a lot less attention than one woman in prison in Saudi Arabia. And so United States and Canada and Germany and United Kingdom have been aiding Saudi Arabia's war on the Yemeni civilians and children. And sometimes I feel like maybe putting feminists in jail is a great strategy for Saudi Arabia to let them go when an administration wants to put pressure on Saudi. So, because right now, for example, we have Biden saying that they are going to, so here's another article by the New York Magazine saying America is complicit in Yemen atrocities. Biden says that ends now. This is great progress. This is great news. Biden just put a freeze on the arms sales to Saudi Arabia. This is exactly, this happened faster than I assumed. And this should be celebrated, but we should also be mindful that this gets undone. I'm going to talk about this a little bit going forward, comparing that to some other countries. But right now, if we're focusing on comparing this to Trump, this is all the wins that we needed is just this. Like, this by itself is enough to justify anybody that voted for Biden. Like, if you guys were worried about Biden doing wokey stuff, saying some stupid crap, not knowing what he's saying, none of that, it matters compared to this. This is a lot more significant. This is people, civilians and innocent children dying, and United States aiding that. And Biden is stopping that. So no matter how, if this freeze continues, and if Biden doesn't undo it because Saudi Arabia just gives the United States some symbolic thing, human rights ish things, what?
Like a prisoner release, you know?
Yeah, yeah. If this freeze continues, unlike some other countries where they did some freeze and then they undid it, this by itself will be more important. If you actually care about humans, if you're a humanist and you care about human lives, if anybody distracts you by Biden saying some stupid stuff about race stuff, some stupid stuff about like some wokey stuff, defending some people that you don't like, every single one of that is going to be insignificant compared to this. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people dying, and United States is leading the way now. It seems like leading the way in stopping aiding Saudi Arabia. Okay, so it's going to be beyond United States. If United States, because for so long, Trump gave the excuse for so many other Western countries to look so progressive and so much more humanist. And that just by this one action, now United States went from looking the least progressive to now looking like the most progressive. Now you could go ahead and shame United Kingdom, Germany, France, Canada, and every single one of these countries, because instead of United States being behind them on the Saudi Arabia issue, United States now is ahead of all of them on this issue.
Yeah, so I think that that's exactly, I completely agree with you. So I think what you're saying is that sometimes when they do this prisoner release, you're wondering if potentially the Saudis think of this as a strategy that will make these like these one or two or three people sort of symbols of what we're holding, almost like little singular superficial hostages. And then when they really like, okay, we released one prisoner, now start selling us arms again, right? So that trade-off, it works well for them. But I think what the editorial was getting at, the Washington Post editorial, what they were getting at was this sentence that Loujain al-Haflul got, the sort of commutation of it, the suspension of it, really taking a 5-year sentence and lowering it down to where she can be released within just a few weeks from now, right? They're looking this as a sort of, they're checking the temperature, right? So they're saying that, okay, this is a sign that with this new administration, right, the Saudis are more susceptible to US pressure than they were when Trump was like sword dancing with them. And, basically, now, the arms sale thing, Congress had actually voted against selling arms. Like both parties together had voted against it. Trump vetoed that, right? He overrode it. The Congress had actually voted to stop funding for the war in Yemen. Republicans and Democrats had voted for it. Trump vetoed it. And this is around the same time that he was defending MBS, after the killing of Khashoggi. So that I think is what the article is about. That it's not about whether this one prisoner really matters more than anything else, and all the other 233,000 people who've died in Yemen, but is this one judge sentence that just happened recently? Is it a sign of things to come? That okay, when the U.S. pressures the Saudis, they're more susceptible to it than they were well before when the U.S. really, really needed them for their oil.
Right. My concern is that these editorials and these people keep falling for the same trick, right? And they look for signs rather than actual measurement of human lives, right? And that's why symbolism, and also because they're writing editorials, symbolism gets more clicks than statistical number of like Yemenis dying and people starving. These don't get the clicks. So if they could show you there's a shift happening, and it's mostly symbolic rather than the number of people that are being saved, they will even they will push that narrative, right? But the thing is that also Saudis know that gets the most clicks. So just like these are the same people who fell for the reform promises of Saudi Arabia before, and now they might be seeming to, again, this is a red flag for me, because they might fall for it again. And if, again, there's nothing like, I don't think like Biden is this great person. He's also like following the trend. If he notices that he could go back into the arms deal because Saudi Arabia gave some symbolic wins to them, and people are like, oh, look, the signs, and like, I don't know, give women a whole bunch of other rights again. I mean, Saudi Arabia has so very little rights for its people that it just has a lot. It's an endless amount of symbolic things that it could give while it continues to, kill a whole bunch of civilians, right?
So,
I'm hopeful, but I'm also cautious, because if Biden notices that he could satisfy the people that in the arms in the military industry, while also getting some congratulations from these editorials for looking like, oh, look, you pushed Saudi Arabia to release 5 or 6 women. I mean, again, I hope I'm not dismissing that as these women shouldn't be in prison, and there's a whole bunch of other things that might happen that we could be happy about. But at the same time, this is something that they might dangle in front of you as progress, but while they're murdering innocent people. So just be mindful of that. Like, I'm hopeful because, again, the reason why I'm hopeful is because it's not because of just this release. It's because how long has it been Biden administration? How long has it been since they started?
Not even a month. I mean, just a couple of weeks.
The fact that they put the pause on 7
days, 1 week.
Yeah, 1 week. It's been 1 week, and they put a pause on arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Like, this is amazing. I hope it's not just something that they're going to undo, because Canada did the same thing and then they undid it. So I hope this is celebrated more than the woman being released or something like that. Yeah,
so I think that one of the platforms that they had, their condition was clearly about the Yemen war, right? The atrocities in Yemen. So I think that the way that it seems, right, the way they presented their platform to the campaign, and it wasn't just Biden, it was all the other Democrats as well, is that the war in Yemen is something that the U.S. should not support. In fact, Congress voted against the war in Yemen. Trump vetoed it, so he overrode what both parties wanted. So this is something they've been wanting to get done for a long time, and they also had a separate thing on the arms deal. So I think the whole idea is that if he sees, he's like, okay, we're freezing the arms sales. They're like, okay, look, listen, we're releasing these 3 prisoners. They're like, well, yeah, are you still keeping the war in Yemen going? Yes, we're still keeping that going. That's the same as ever before. Then I don't think that's going to work. I think they're pretty aware of that at this point. And the most important thing is they don't really need Saudi Arabia for example, oil. They don't need them for any economic reason. But there is one thing that they do need them for, right? And that is their deterring Iran, right? So that's a one aspect of it. If there is a deal, if there's something that MBS does, okay, we're going to help deter Iran in some way. I mean, that is potentially something that the U.S. can be, the U.S. might negotiate on. Where, and this is me being very cynical, where the Yemen thing continues to, I don't think it's going to continue to worsen. I think there's going to be some sort of like a negotiation on it, but that's basically the thing that the U.S. wants to work with the Saudis on. It's probably their only real interest right now in Saudi Arabia.
I think that the war in Yemen has given Iran a lot of excuse. Again, the Islamic Republic, I shouldn't say Iran. A lot of excuse to, I don't know, like I don't think they need
excuse for what?
For getting involved with the Houthis. Like the Houthis now need Iran because of the war in Yemen, and this is why they became a proxy of Iran. So it's basically every time Saudi Arabia fights Iran's government, it keeps helping them for some reason. Like it keeps making them, like Saudi Arabia is the best enemy the Islamic Republic of Iran could ever hope for. So every single thing that they ever did as a move against Iran's government has been to the benefit of them. Like this is like not, if the United States wants to take a position against stronger positions against the Islamic Republic of Iran, Saudi Arabia is not your best ally. Israel knows how to fight back against Iran, but Saudi Arabia is the worst, right? I do want to read some tweets by 2 senators. One is by Chris Murphy, saying the weapons we sold to Saudi Arabia and UAE have been used to kill school children, transfer to extremist militias, and fueled a dangerous arms race in the Middle East. This is the right move. So he's referring to Biden freezing the arms sales. The time is now to reset our relationship with Gulf allies. Another Senator Bob Mendes, is that how you say it? Welcome this pause and review of these arms sales that we inexplicably okay, I can't read. Rush without thorough review of implications of U.S. national security and protection of innocent lives in Yemen. I don't like the fact that it's a pause, but because there's a bad history. I'll go through it in that history later once you once you comment. The second part of this tweet says, I encourage the Biden administration to carefully consider the broader regional security implications of these sales and to consult with Congress as it continues its due diligence on these and other arms sales. Okay, guys, by the way, this is like, I don't know if people understand how big of a deal this is. Okay, there's a lot of money involved in these arms sales, more money than anything that Trump administration or Biden administration could impact. Like we're talking the biggest deals in history. Okay, so for Biden administration to put human rights ahead of this amount of money, this is a cause for celebration, in my opinion, way more than Saudi Arabia releasing one feminist. Okay, and again, I think that these senators congratulating us also put some political capital behind this move, and I hope everybody pays more attention to this rather than any carrots that Saudi Arabia wants to like dangle around human rights activists, because if this gets reversed, like these politicians need to know that they can't just like excite us for a bit and then eventually they undo it. There needs to be, if there's political capital right now in favor of making a move like this, there needs to be a political cost, a huge political cost for them to undo this, because people will get distracted very fast. People will yay, thank you, Biden. And if they notice, as soon as they notice people now are forgot about this and the number of people that are paying attention to this is less, if people don't congratulate this enough, then the politicians are going to be like, maybe there's not that much benefit. I'm not going to get reelected over celebrating this that much. There's not. So there needs to be a lot of push in highlighting this instead, so that they know that undoing this will cost them. Because if undoing this does not cost them, then the money will speak a lot louder than the human rights activists. The human rights activists, everybody needs to pay attention to this. And I understand that the political motivation behind these senators and Biden might be something that is not for the sake of the humans themselves. It doesn't really matter. The result speaks for themselves, and people should go out there and celebrate this and congratulate Biden. Okay, I don't care if Biden comes out and says like something. Even if he says something that is anti-white racist, you go like, oh my God, this is like not even borderline racist. This is goddamn racist. I don't give a crap. That's nothing compared to this. It's nothing compared to this. But
hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.